Recording? Okay. All right, folks. I have asked Mike to continue with the series. The original idea was to just do a 4-part series on improv, but I've asked Mike to continue with the series because I think that having improv once a month adds a lot to the 52 Living Ideas community. That's my opinion, okay? And I just sprung it on Mike today, but I would like to get your take on, because I also want Mike to hear what you're getting from the series, because now he has to plan out a whole bunch of improvs and he has to decide what to do with it. And this is the time that I would like to hear from, and Mike would like to hear from everybody. What is it that you get from these improv meetups, from improv as such? How does it relate? How does it help you? How does it connect with 52 Living Ideas? Any thoughts? Go ahead and type exclamation mark. We're going to start with Evanik, Rupali, and Maritza. Evanik.
So I'll start with what I think this provides for me is, I think the ability to think on your feet is a practice, right? Like it's something that you just don't do once. Like improv is not something that you do once and it goes away. I think the same thing about practicing thinking on your feet. You don't do it once and then it just goes away. You have to keep practicing. It's a muscle that you keep building. And I found that in my everyday life, the more I build that muscle of thinking on my feet, it has an effect on the work that I do. That when I'm talking to different lawyers and different attorneys, different attorneys and different staff, I can think on my feet and I'm able to think quicker or come up with the answer quicker, or even to admit that I don't have the answer quicker without thinking too long or overthinking in my case, which is what I normally do. I think in terms of 52 Living Ideas, it allows people to express themselves, to have fun, but it also allows people when they're in other meetups, to be able to speak their voice and say what they want to say and to express themselves. So I think those two things are invaluable. And so that's what I see the benefit of improv and what you bring to the table, Mike. So definitely keep going.
Thank you, Evanik. Would love to hear from everybody who's here. So just go ahead and type exclamation mark. Next up is going to be Rupali, Maritza, and Joe. Rupali.
So I enjoy these improv sessions because they're just a lot of fun. And after a long day of work, isn't it fun to just laugh and just play? I don't think I do that enough. So thank you for coordinating this meetup. I thoroughly enjoyed myself today. Apart from that, I think, 52 Living Ideas keeps pushing the boundaries of Zoom and what we can do on Zoom. Going from really high level talks like Bhagavad Gita and Gospel of John, Tao, to just having fun. I think this is a great community of people who just enjoy learning and being with each other. I'm looking forward to a live show. If you're going to do it, I will come down to somewhere between New York and Philly. It'll be a lot of fun. And then the other thing is, on a more serious note, what Mike said before about working with children, children have a lot of fun with improv, but if it is made a practice for them since the beginning, right? Otherwise, by third grade, they get very conscious of themselves and they stop sharing their own voice. They start kind of having these layers of what people want them to think about them. And so improv allows them to just be free from that expectation. And I think that for me personally, improv has helped me overcome my own fears and has allowed me to be able to articulate and express myself. So many, many benefits. Thank you for doing this. I'm looking forward to more meetups on improv.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rupali. Excellent points. Next up is Maritza, followed by Joe. And if anybody else wants to share, go ahead and type exclamation mark. Maritza, what do you think?
I like this meetup for the, it seems like it's just adding a little more to the well-roundedness. It's very much, and like Rupali said, it's the joy, the laughter, the lighthearted side. And I think that it's so easy to forget that that is as vital as the serious, in-depth dives that we do into some heavy concepts. I also find that it's easier to dive into the heavier concepts and switch between them as we're doing this together here practicing. It's kind of like, in boxing where you practice that back and forth motion to make you lighter on the feet. I feel like this does that for me in a way.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think Irv had something, and then we'll go to Joe. Irv, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I've been involved in theater all my life. I literally from third grade when I played the Emperor in the Emperor's New Clothes. I got hooked on it. So throughout my life, I lived in Wilmington, Delaware for 50 years, and I was very active in the community theater there. I moved to Philadelphia about 5 years ago and was disappointed that there is no community theater in Center City, Philadelphia. There's lots in the suburbs, but not in the center. So I really miss it. And what I really enjoy about theater is getting to be someone else. That is to try to understand the emotions, the internal thought patterns, the reactions of someone who is not you. And so for me, this is a theatrical experience that I really enjoy. I'm now 88 years old, so I have very little professional career ahead of me to apply some of these things. And throughout my life, between theater, and I was a professor lecturing in seminars and things of that sort. I even did some stand-up comedy when I was very young in college. So I've done all those things through my life. For me, it's just enjoyment to exercise some of those theatrical things that I've enjoyed doing in a fairly controlled way and in a fun way.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Irv. Next up is Joe. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I really think that there's one practical aspect of this that it helps us track our progress. If we do something once a month, we can actually see how much more comfortable we are getting at improv. And I think that's, improv in and of itself helps you, with your response time, and it helps you with your confidence. Like, if you're asked something you have to be decisive and really make a decision on what you're going to say. So I think that this is actually a really healthy exercise that we, will get better as we'll see our progression in it. I mean, the first time, remember, we just started with yes and actually, no, it went back further than that. I feel a little bit more comfortable now, more comfortable than I did the first time. So I think that's by having it monthly, you can actually see yourself improving in something. And so it's almost as if we were, writing or something along those lines. We're just speaking. This is the oral version of writing very quickly. So this is, I think that this is, and it's fun too. I think it also breaks up to Maritza's point. It breaks up, we're doing Gospel of John on Thursday. And I mean, that's in the beginning was the word, and it doesn't get any more deep than that. So, so we go from that, and so tonight having a light night, a light Wednesday night, although I appreciate the amount of work that goes in with what Mike had presented in the beginning. Those interviews, those discussions, that takes up time. So it's great for us, and I'm just hopeful that Mike will agree to continue to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Next up is going to be Becky. Becky, go ahead.
I really appreciate it because, I've discussed this several times with Mike before, growing up, so boxed in, because that was what my parents had done to me. And so that fear of going outside this kind of gives me that avenue to be someone else and to look outside of yourself and to take on that different personality, to engage with what other things might be going on intuitively. So this is great practice too, because Mike had pointed out many times that this is something that can be developed. You might not be good at it initially, but over time, it's like any other skill. You become more comfortable and get better over time.
Thank you, Becky. Next up is Jason. Jason, go ahead.
All right. So I didn't participate much tonight because I was just so interested in just hearing what everyone else was. I just love seeing how far everyone's come, basically. And it's really gratifying just to observe people starting off on a journey that I myself started about 8 years ago at this point. And it's gratifying further to me just to see that, just be able to empathize with how difficult improv can be, but also how quickly one can find progress. So it's just a good way for me to look back on my own journey a bit. Additionally to that, it dawned on me also today that reading is to knowledge acquisition what improv is to communication and putting yourself out in the world and spreading knowledge, creating relationships. So as fundamental as reading is, it's something that we all are expected to have a basic ability to do. However, there are so many more levels to it, to getting better at reading, right? So, but we take it for granted after elementary school, high school, that most of us don't necessarily hone our ability to read, outside of this group at least. We don't do it. We don't take intentional time to do it because we take it for granted that we know how to read, correct? So, but we don't realize how much we're limiting our knowledge acquisition by not continually refining and expanding our ability to read and intake information. So same thing with improv. We all know how to do it to a certain degree, especially as children, which Ms. Sharma alluded to. However, we take for granted how fundamental it is to communication, especially real-time conversations, and therefore we miss out on the opportunity that improv can give us to better engage in political discourse, spread ideas, receive ideas. So it is a knowledge acquisition skill as well, same thing as reading. So in other words, to me, it's a fundamental art in communication, and it's really hard to be, I think, a good communicator in everyday life without having a foundation within improv in some way. And if I also might just give a little plug, I know someone, Professor Gross mentioned being in the Philly area. For anyone else who is in the Philly area and wants to actually get involved in improv in some way, my coach and I and my team, we're going to be actually having a sort of a performance / Q&A / workshop at the Wissahickon Wissahickon Valley Public Library next Thursday, the 17th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Totally free. Drop in anytime you want, and you might get a chance to sign up for a sort of an in-person improv club that we're trying to start. So, I was just practicing tonight actually for the show. So, 6 to 7:30 p.m. actually, if anyone wants to join.
Jason,
And also,
could you go ahead and put the details in the chat?
Yeah, sure. And Mike, I also want to just offer my services in any way. I know it's a lot to design these very robust, rigorous classes. To the extent that I can, I'd like to offer some, assistance in helping to design an ongoing curriculum. So.
Yeah, I noticed. I didn't notice that you were here until just now when we all came back together. That would be really helpful. I would definitely want help with demoing certain things. So, for example, as we come up with more and more ideas to do on Zoom, because I know you have a fair amount of experience, that it's important to have a volunteer come up and demo something. But yeah, I'll stay in touch with you and take ideas, all of it, Jason. That would be great. So you are a physician, am I correct?
Yeah, I
That
do
you're-
urgent care.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that you've used improv on the job, on the spot with your patients. I remember hearing that in conversation. That's the kind of stuff that I'd like to talk about during the Q&A portion of this. That was great stuff, Jason. So yeah,
Sure, happy to do so.
great,
so
thank
much.
you. Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Next up is going to be Joe, followed by Maritza. Joe.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought about actually is that this is where it's very helpful is, we talk about making connections here a lot, and taking 3 or 4 different words and making connections on the fly like that. It's helpful, when you're starting to string together a story. I often think back to the time where you, on your diagram, were able to plot the story of what was it? Which story was it? Your Cyrus?
Yeah, Osiris.
Osiris. That's it. Yeah, very, very quickly, right? And it was just an example of chaos and order that I had asked about, and you said, "Okay, let me take the story," and you were able to put it together very quickly.
Tomorrow I'm going to do John 1, so that's going to be fun.
That is going to be fun, but you did that on the fly, though.
Yes.
You did that with just it was one question, and I thought about it, and I thought, wow, that was really fast. You got the example, it actually made sense, and you put it into context, and you explained the diagram. So you did 3 things. So by stringing 3 words together with a story and doing it kind of the more shall we say cognizant, or the more I don't know, rational the story is, then I think that is actually, something that it's more of how we can make connections in general. I think it helps us in that regard, where, sometimes on the fly versus where I always walk out of a meetup and think about, what I should have said, or I thought about, or, I always do that, but hopefully, that can help us with a little bit more.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
space.
Joe. Next up is Maritza. And then I have some points about what everybody, I just wanted to recount some of the points that everybody put together. Maritza.
I forgot my initial statement I was gonna say, sorry, but I did want to mention so I see a lot of parallels with the way that the sessions today unfold and with what we do on Mondays. On Mondays, we get together and we write collaborative poetry on Mondays. And so it's a different type of improv, but it's improv all the same. I was wondering if there's any room in this improv night for some type of a theme, or like some kind of a homework theme or preview theme. And the reason I'm thinking about it, because I'm realizing that's something that we just started for ourselves to help people with creating the collaborative form on the spot. It's like they crave it now, and if we don't mention it to them, we get like all kinds of emails and texts and messages like, what's the theme? And it just kind of, they spend all week thinking about this theme, and then when they come, it's still like they still have to figure out what they're going to say, and they're going to be paying off of some of the other lines, but it gives them a little bit of a direction. I was wondering if, so in here, some of the pauses today might just be because we're all, so many of us are new, that quick thinking is not so quick for us yet. So maybe a little bit of help, like a tuning rod, so that we kind of preset the brain before we show up. I don't know if that's something that improv does. Does it take away from the improv? But it was just a thought I had.
Excellent thought. I wanted to recount several points that two of friends of Mike made, and then several points that everybody here made, just to kind of highlight the variety of observations that we have heard today about improv. They talked about being alive and being present. I mean, that's a huge thing that improv does. Cultivate that. Secondly, in terms of other people, see what happens is we don't really know other people. So actually listening to people and seeing where they are coming from, you have to be alive to the moment. That is a crucial skill, communication skill, fundamental communication skill of actually trying to hear what the other person is saying and then being able to put yourself in their shoes, because that's the only way you're going to actually understand what they're saying. It's a very interesting play between reality and imagination, because improv focuses on freeing up your imagination. But when you actually look at great improv, it actually marries the reality and imagination so that there is a consistent picture that actually is emerging. So there is a reality base for it on which this very fantastic work of imagination is taking place. You will find that if it is just imagination, disconnected things, it's not as much fun as an integrated thing. So there is this structure and its growth at the same time. Mike talked about the yin yang, going back and forth between a definite thing and that. Somebody mentioned generosity. I think that's also a very fundamental thing. You're saying that, look, we are here working together. Let me give you something. Instead of hogging everything, you're trying to give people something. And all the parties have that kind of a attitude that is there throughout. There is that integrity and variety. That's how. But then the crucial part of it, another way of looking at it, is that it is creating the habit of thinking on your feet. And you're practicing that in a very low cost way. We are just expressing ourselves, and that habits that you build in doing that carry over to everything that you do. You don't feel as much boxed in. You don't feel as much self-conscious. You're not continuously thinking, okay, what are other people going to say? You feel freer to be more authentically relating to things. So it just frees you up at a level. It is fun. It's a lot of fun. And there is a sense of play that is there that runs throughout. And I'm always floored by the range of imaginative things that everybody comes up with, everybody here comes up with. You say, wait a minute. Wow, I've never thought of that. Look at the discussion of office furniture. It's a way of overcoming fears. We have many fears which we don't really. There isn't any base for that fear. It's unnecessary fear, and just seeing that it was unnecessary in one context allows you to become a little bit more courageous in other contexts. And that's a huge thing, because I like the quote, fear is a mind killer. It really stops you in many different ways. The idea of getting to be somebody else, or talked about that is what theater gives. But in a very fundamental way, it's a fundamental way of achieving multiple perspectives. We are all stuck with our own perspective. This is a very quick way of jumping into shoes, multiple shoes, and you get a little bit better in everything that you do in doing that. the response time, decisiveness of saying, okay, do something. Don't freeze. Don't, think too much and get stuck. Do what you can, because you know that the other person is also going to help you, and you yourself are going to be at the next step, be able to do something. So it frees you up. So this kind of analysis paralysis that many people have, it's a way of overcoming that. It's definitely a fundamental communication skill. And I also want to emphasize the value of collaborative work here, that you are actually, everybody is giving you a gift of showing you what human consciousness can do. And you're experiencing that, and you are actually learning from that. You're gaining a little bit of more courage, and you're expressing yourself. So it's a collaborative way of increasing your imagination. And it's not just imagination, okay? It's also greater connection to reality, because you will notice that in great improv, it is physical based, it is reality based, and it is imaginative at the same time. All great art is like that. The imagination and concreteness, art is imagination concretized. And that's what it does. So those are my thoughts. And I also want to say that, Mike is doing an amazing job. I like the structure that he has, where he puts something on the table. He puts a lot of work, repeats things, makes it very clear for people who are not familiar with it. Then he has a series of exercises and this kind of takeaway. So that structure, I think he's doing a great job of. And, he will get his friends or anybody who wants to collaborate to join in, and they will work together and produce something. So those were my thoughts. If anybody wants to say anything more, you're welcome to do that. And we will wrap up in about in a few minutes. All right. Mike, what do you say to all of this?
Wow,
My whole purpose was to give you a sense of what everybody is getting from it, what everybody.
Yeah, this was great. Yeah, there was so much positive feedback and important feedback. To Maritz's point that, I didn't know in advance that we would continue, but she's absolutely right that there would be more lead time to work toward the next meetup, and there's so many different things. What I definitely want to explore too is I want to keep the interview process. So I know a lot of improvisers, but I also know people who improvise outside of the comedic form, which is sort of what we did tonight. So, for example, Irv has had a lifetime on stage in dramatic theater, and also has done comedic theater as well. But that's a well of information. Jason, who's a seasoned improviser, is also a physician and uses that in an urgent care situation. If I just look around these boxes, there's PhD in one here, there's someone who improvises in poetry here, and it's so I definitely want to explore the personal end too, Shrikant, during that interview process. I thought that worked well, even though it was kind of on the fly. I wouldn't mind having a theme, as Maritza suggested, to give the participants lead time, and then have me get folks in who can talk firsthand about that theme. So we'll have the interview with people who have lived it. The students or the participants will have advance notice, and the exercise will be tied to all that. That's what's percolating right now.
There is one way, because I'm very familiar with, Maritza's Poetry Mondays, which work beautifully.
Yeah, they're great.
Very beautifully. So all we can do is, the simplest way of integrating that theme part is that we can do one exercise on a particular theme. So we can choose a theme like circus. So we're going to do something on circus. And then there'll be that 10-minute section where people will think about circus and come and talk. So it'll be a little bit of preparation, but they will be interacting with each other. It's not just going to be just monologues. So they would prepare something, and then they would interact with it. So it will be like maybe a 10-minute, 15-minute section, something like that. That will be a way of doing that. Marissa, does that make sense?
It does, yes. That's kind of along the lines of where I was thinking as well. Just the idea of just kind of something to prepare. And I was like, I know it's improv. You probably don't want to, you don't want to be rigid. And as your friends were saying, we don't want to write anything down, but maybe just to have an idea percolating in the background.
Sure.
So Mike, you want to pick an idea?
An idea?
Yeah, something. How about circus? You want to do a circus? A 10 or you choose anything you want.
Let me think about it. Let me take everything that happened in tonight, because we have some time and we'll definitely come up with that. I do want to explore, so definitely along the way. So in that interview process, like even with Imritz's poetry class, there are people that are improvising everywhere. There are musicians that show up here that improvise musically. And Rupali, I would love to see you on the fly in a Montessori classroom. You might be able to speak forever about on-the-fly instruction, which you're doing every day. I'm sure you're improvising in the classroom.
Yeah, I'd love
Yes.
all the time. And you're taking, the feedback from students,
Yeah.
and they're saying, and you are tweaking it just so all the time. So
Yeah, correct. So, we can definitely spotlight people, Shrikant, to fill in the interview section, and then go from there. Yeah, no, it sounds great. Yeah, we'll
Absolutely.
put it
And
all together.
Whatever you come up with is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. No, this is great. I've already had.
You can see that you have lots of fans.
Yeah, no, this is great.
And
Hey, if I may, just one more thing.
Sure.
And maybe even something so simple as like, your A through Z exercise.
Yeah.
Like that, where you explained it, maybe just even something like that, like say, these types of exercises are what we're going to practice this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not breaking any like improv rule, because improv can be practiced. It is sometimes individual skills, like even actors. Irv will tell you there are exercises that actors do with their voice, or just using certain words or expressions or accents. Do the same thing in improv. Yeah, there's so many things that we can do. It's not necessarily scene work. You're just working on individual skills, whether they're accents or emotion shifts or status shifts. Yeah, we can highlight one of those every month and just work specifically on that skill. And then, every now and then you just get together and actually do scenes together, and which will be a blast. It takes a little time for people to work on the individual skills, and then, off we go. It'll be great.
All right, folks, so let me tell you about the amazing meetups coming up, okay? Tomorrow is going to be John 1. We're going to be talking about, John 1, verses 1 through 5, okay? If you are familiar with it, you're welcome to talk about it. There are many people. I have a short presentation. Gary, who is doing his master's thesis on Gospel of John, is going to be speaking. There are many, many people. It's an amazing, amazing meetup. It is deeply philosophical. And this is the most philosophical part of the New Testament. So just those 5 verses, it's very, very short. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. Without him, nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That's it. We're going to be talking only about that. That's going to be tomorrow. On Friday, we're going to be talking about the theme of divine feminine. This is the meetup that Evanique, Brian, and Penny do together. And we'll be looking at what happened to the divine feminine in the early period. This is Evanique, what period will you guys be covering?
It'll be the early period of Jewish history. It'll be based off the Bible and two book sources which are in the meetup. But basically, it'll be covering. It's kind of the second part to the one we did last month, and it'll be covering like what happened to the divine feminine in Jewish culture. We will be looking at Job. I forget the other ones off the top of my head, but I know we'll be looking at Job, and other books of the Bible, as well as two other books.
Wonderful. Next, the meetup I'm really looking forward to, I always look forward to every month, is the meetup by Yasuhiko Kimura. He's going to be back, and he's going to talking about age of imagination, role of imagination in human life. And I don't know how, but every time his presentation is better than the last time, and it is just incredible. So that is going to be on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Don't miss that. And on Sunday, we are going to have two meetups. The first one is going to be by Mark Stallman. That is concluding his series, the 4-part series that he's doing in the launch of the Trivium University. You know, I'm tremendously honored that he chose 52 Living Ideas to launch the Trivium University lectures. And this lecture is going to be on 3 spheres, that how the world has become multipolar. What is the difference between the West, China, and the digital sphere? The West, East, and the digital sphere. What is each of their characteristics and how they are interacting together today? It's a very, very deep topic and very fascinating topic. That's going to be Sunday at 3 p.m. And then Sunday at 5 p.m., we have the concluding section of Frankenstein. So that's going to be Sunday at 5 p.m. On Mondays, we do collaborative poetry that Maritza, has been leading. It's actually an amazing experience. It shows you that this improvisation technique is not just, it can be used at a very deep level to explore themes like harmony, for example. The kinds of poetry that people produce in this collaborative is actually quite stunning. Like there is divided into small groups, and we put in line after line, and then we do the editing. In about half an hour, we generate a poem on a theme. Maritza, what is the theme this time?
This Monday, we're going to be exploring being right.
Yes, and the featured poet is?
Maya Angelou.
Wonderful. So we have a featured poet. Many people read the poems by featured poet, but you can read any poem that you like. It's a way of sharing. Again, just like this, improv is doing something very, very different than most of 52 Living Ideas. This series on poetry is doing the same, especially the collaborative poetry component. So if you're not experienced it, I encourage you to do that. On Tuesdays, we're doing Confucius Analytics. We're on chapter 7. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do something based on CJ's meetup. I don't think he will have time to prepare for this one. And I'm thinking of going back and taking the last meetup that he did on the intellectual virtues, because we did not get enough time to actually discuss it amongst ourselves. So we will just discuss that. That's what Maritza and Joe, does that make sense to you? Because it's an amazing topic. It actually is a culmination
Yes,
of a lot of his work, and we can discuss it. And that will be something that he will also enjoy hearing how different people are focused on it. Maritza, what do you think?
I think that's a great one. It's definitely one that we need to review further to sink our teeth into.
Wonderful. All right. So that's what we will do on Wednesday. So folks, thank you so much. And Mike, thank you for agreeing to do continue the improv series. Really appreciate it.
A lot of fun. Thank you all for participating, coming out. It was a blast. See you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you, Irv.
Thank you.
Irv,
Bye.
great. I didn't know you could do that. I thought you could only do architecture and design.
Oh, no, I don't do architecture or design. I was more a mathematician than anything else.
Okay, wonderful. Irv, wonderful to see you here. Hope to see you soon.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Nice seeing you.
Bye.
Joe, good seeing you.
Take care, everyone.
Nice
Have a
seeing
good
you,
night.
Irv. It's great
Bye.
seeing you. Take care.